lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out to Tom Herkins, Tina Baker, the Flat Earth Channel.com, Texas Mike, Skeptic936, Sam Hain, Sally Ballas, Rune, Reinhardt, Qatar, Paige, Nybai, Michael, Matt, Life is Short, Kirsten Smith, Joshua, Jeranism, Godrockin, Fireball X, Felix Hung, FE Diplomat, Edwin Johnson, David Wayne Foster, David Rakia Gifford, Dank, Charlie Uncut, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Billy Highvolt, Alistair Main and Adrian Quintana. Massive shout out to all of you. Now we are joined currently by 10th Man and Sleeping Warrior in G+. How the devil are you both?
Good morning, good morning.
Hello.
All's good.
Before the show started, Anthony came and told me all about the devastating current affairs that is Britain today. Not that I care.
The Boris Johnson debacle. He's
no
a
idea.
fucking muppet.
I had no idea what he was on about. I don't watch the news or care about any of this nonsense.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's going to be either relieved of his powers today by Jeremy Corbyn forming basically a coup, or he'll have to step down. And he said he's not stepping down, so we're waiting to see what happens. It's going to be interesting.
Hey, Anthony, why do you think there's a cause and effect relationship with that and Bitcoin?
It just seems to coincide with a massive drop in Bitcoin over the last 24, 48 hours.
Right, but isn't Bitcoin designed for this exact purpose? So it can rise when things like this happen? So it's just a game they're playing.
It is a game. It's supposed to signify confidence in the financial market. But the problem is, because it's Brexit related, it's really political because Boris Johnson's adamant that he's going to pull out of Europe, deal or no deal, which is the will of the people, right? But
right.
Most business and financial sector workers do not want to come out of Europe, myself included. I think it's suicide. But I accept that the will of the people should prevail and we should come out, even though I don't want to come out. I think it's silly. But because he's adamant he's coming out regardless, he's seen as being reckless. So he's had to push things, and he's tried to disband Parliament so that he can work like a dictator in the background.
Right. But hang on. I got to stop you there because I followed this whole thing from this side of the pond. But that should not affect Bitcoin.
Well, if England pull out of European markets, the argument would be that the confidence in the market is a lot less because there's a major player that's stepping out of the European community.
That's right. Let's assume that's right. I may or may not agree if we had a long discussion, but the point is, let's assume you're right. Bitcoin should go up when there's no confidence.
It's the timing, isn't it? It depends on what's happening and the timing, because at the moment it's lost a lot of confidence because it looks like Boris Johnson might be getting kicked out of government, and he's the one that's pulling people out of the
Bitcoin.
It's hard to interpret what's causing it. It's just isn't it?
It's real easy to interpret. Bitcoin was introduced into society for what purpose?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. You tell me.
Decentralized. It's decentralized, right?
Yeah, it's decentralized. It's anonymous and decentralized. And when paper money and financial institutions suffer, Bitcoin goes up. In this case, it's going down, which means that the powers to be have total control over it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. They've argued that it's to do with the the launch of a new platform, a new cryptocurrency platform called something like, what was it called? Backed, BAKKT, Backed. And I don't know what Backed is, what makes it different, but that's what they're pinning it on at the moment. But the launch of a new platform isn't likely to have such a massive impact, particularly when there's a major issue going on in the UK at the minute, because we could end up with an unelected parliament that was never voted in. In other words, Labour under Jeremy Corbyn. That would be lunacy.
Well, any platform that's introduced going forward is government run, and maybe on the outside it looks like it's not government run, but it's government run, because once they put Bitcoin on the commodities market here, not the commodities market one, I think I am right, the commodity. Well, when they came in and said we're going to regulate it, that's when it went from 21,000 down to what, 3?
The value.
Yeah, remember, it was at 21,000, and then they put it on the exchange, and I said, as soon as they put it on the exchange, it's going to go down. And sure enough, it went from 21,000 to 3, because the government can't allow for this to be outside their control. So
Yeah.
it's just a game. This whole thing is a game. They control it now.
Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know enough about Bitcoin to understand the ins and outs of it. I just know that there's lots of weird shit happening at the minute to do with Boris Johnson, and it seems to correlate. Obviously, correlation is not causation, and we wouldn't dream to think that it was. But it's just interesting what's happening.
It should not correlate by the very fact that Bitcoin is designed to go up when confidence goes down. If you have no confidence in your government, if you have no confidence in your mint, if you have no confidence in your paper money, Bitcoin goes up. But it doesn't anymore because they took it over.
I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? Don't you followed the news? You saw what happened when they took a decentralized Bitcoin and centralized it in the exchange. It went from 21,000 to 3. What do you think caused that?
Well, correlation is not causation, though, right?
I'm not saying it's correlation. It was the causation, is what I'm saying. It was going bonkers. It was going 15,000, 18,000, 21,000. Everyone was kicking themselves for not buying one of them, because, everyone says it's going to be one Bitcoin's going to be $1 million. Everyone was into that whole hoopla, right? And then all of a sudden they said, oh, we're going to put this on the exchange and regulate it. The minute they did that, it goes down to 3. Now it went to 8. Now it's down to 60, whatever. They're totally controlling it.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, it's centralized, and it was supposed to be decentralized.
Like I said, correlation is not causation.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is they'll blame the next financial debacle on global warming. Then they'll blame the next.
Yeah, that was in the news today. That was in the news. Did you hear it? They said that the ice caps are melting at the fastest rate ever. And I thought, I'm sure I heard just 6 weeks ago that the ice caps were regenerating themselves and being repaired.
Lies, lies, lies. The whole world is lies.
Nathan, have you come? Oh, mind you want to come across that, but I'm sure it said that the ice caps were reforming. Because it's going into winter. It was reforming at the fastest rate in 10 years or something like that, indicating that global warming wasn't a problem anymore.
These magical ice caps in areas we are restricted from travelling to, unless under high lease. Those magical ice caps, right? Not the ones outside my front door. The ones that we don't get to see and aren't anywhere near and aren't validating anything they're claiming about them, right? Those ice caps.
It's funny because the ballers tell us on demand that we basically denounce the idea of an ice wall because we can't prove it, but everybody believes in global warming and ice caps melting.
Well, the world is so crazy.
False analogy. There's a big difference between an ice wall, a ring of ice, around an azimuth equidistant projection of a sphere Earth, and what they claim are just any old random ice caps melting. It doesn't matter what they say they are. They're not saying they're anything specific. They might give you a specific geographical location. Maybe they say it's Antarctica, but that's not. You can't juxtapose that with the ice wall. That's a bit unreasonable, isn't it?
Is it? What's the difference? Perspective?
Not perspective. Just they're not. Then there's no comparison with saying ice is melting, even though they're saying on planet Earth, versus saying there's an ice wall. How'd you get where'd you get the parallel from? And the answer is you don't. That's why I say it's a false analogy.
I would argue that it's a valid and legitimate analogy, depending on your perspective, because the ice wall could equally be the edge of the
Ice wall? Here we
continent.
go. I knew it. It didn't take long before you started presupposing that ice wall, right?
Well, it's either an ice wall that goes around us in a ring, or it's an ice wall that goes around a continent that's on, and we're on the outside of it.
Hear me out. But for your presupposition that you've just forced upon me, there is no juxtaposition that you can make between melting ice caps in a heliocentric bullshit narrative of a mainstream world that I don't live in anymore, versus an ice wall that you've just decided to reify. There's no parallel between those two. This is moot. It doesn't really matter. I'm just saying it's not a fair comparison.
It is moot, you're right, but I still maintain it is a fair comparison because it's one or the other, and we don't know which.
No, it's not one or the other. What bloody outrage!
It is. There is a logical and reasonable point where the sun can no longer stop the ice or the water from forming into ice.
What a load of bollocks.
There is.
So,
because we know the sun's got limits.
What if it's not ice? What if it's brick?
Well, prove the brick.
Prove the ice. I'm only asserting that ludicrous position using something explicitly man-made to highlight the nonsense of that kind of assertion. I can no more prove brick than you can prove ice. That's the point.
Well, there is evidence of huge walls of ice.
Is there? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see this evidence of huge walls of ice while you show me a kilometre tops of some ice and then tell me that it surrounds my entire existence. Nah, I'm not buying that.
So the kilometre tops of wall of ice isn't a wall of ice? Is that what you're saying?
It's a wall of ice. At the location of that photographer. To then tell me that surrounds me in all directions. You've got to be joking.
Well, is the issue that there's an ice wall, or is it the way that it shapes around us or not?
What ice? What ice? I keep saying it never sinks in. What ice?
Right. So the issue is that there's not a wall of ice. Is that right?
You have no idea what's there. It could be a brick wall. It could be a million different things, right? I don't know what's there. If there is anything. But you've got a whole narrative laid out, and you've even got a false dichotomy to go with it. It's either one or the other. No, it isn't. What a load of crap.
So what you're saying is that you don't accept the evidence that is available for us to check of walls of ice over what we could say is an outer ring or a continent, but we don't know. You
could. There you go again with your presupposition foisted upon me. We could say that. No, you could say that and are saying that.
So are you taking a nihilist approach to this by saying that unless you suck it yourself, you can't taste it?
In the same way, I have no idea what the sky is. Now, I can logically deduce what it isn't, pissing in the face of their assertions that it's a vacuum. Same applies to the outer ring. I have no idea what's there. Literally no idea. And neither have you. And you're saying, well, the evidence that's been presented, what, a few photos on a Google search that says Antarctica's looking like a wall? Yeah, okay, from that vantage point with that camera on that day, that's what it looked like. They simultaneously tell us the bloody things are melting, Anthony. What are you going to believe?
I don't know. I'm just saying that there is evidence of a big, massive continental shelf of ice. And who are you to say that that's not true when there is evidence of it?
10 minutes earlier, you told me the mainstream narrative, the whole bloody thing's melting. For all I know, it's gone. I don't know.
Oh, I'm saved by the phone bill. One sec.
I like these conversations.
Quite entertaining.
Hello? Is that Darren? that you, Darren, in Discord, or did I just imagine somebody's voice?
I didn't hear anything.
Be me. Must be me imagining it.
But can you prove it?
Can't prove it, no. You can't interpret my perception of things, unfortunately.
So I was watching that video with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's saying, well, we could assume the Earth's rotating already because we know the Earth is rotating already. So there's the R they presuppose in everything. And it's just amazing how they put R into every single comment as a presupposition as they talk, especially when it comes to hurricanes and the way they spin. When there are so many other factors they don't even consider.
The whole nonsense of asserting hurricanes as a part of Coriolis proof of Earth spin is just horseshit assertion. Coriolis effect is a not actual deviation. So to assert that hurricanes have any part to play in that is just rubbish.
Yeah, but they bring the rubbish to avoid saying what you just said. A clear explanation. That's how they fool the masses. They deflect to something else that has nothing to do with it.
Right.
I mean, you've got north, east, west, and south winds. You've got jet stream. You've got heat. You've got cold. You got downforce. You got upforce. You got so many other things that happen in weather. It can't be any of that. Oh, it's got to be the Earth's rotating, and we know it already.
Yeah, they're far more overt, the heliocentric priests on TV. They're a lot more overt about it when they beg the question. They just flat out say it.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have to, because if they all sing in one unison concert, then all the sheep follow that. And then somebody says, wait a minute, it's an apparent deflection. It's not really deflecting.
But they're programming people into an automatic acceptance to beg the question and, vehemently defend the notion that they are just automatically correct to assume their outcome. And it's only when someone like us on the flat earth side comes along and say, no, that's actually a logical fallacy. You're simply assuming your outcome. Well, that's the thing you're trying to prove. And normally that results in slight meltdown on the globe fundamentalist side.
Yeah, when I talk to normies, you just could hear how they're programmed because they just parrot what's all these, pseudoscientists have said. I said, wait a minute, you're just repeating what you've heard. We're looking for cause and effect.
Yeah, there's no scientific validity to any of the assertions in regards to the heliocentric model. It's just a model. A model we've been lied about since childhood.
Yeah, exactly. Well, QE's show yesterday was spot on when he broke it down to man-made, physical, and natural, and supernatural. If you can realize how to decipher those three things, you can spot things that you normally wouldn't. They put science for shoes, they put science for cars, they put science. You're going to science the heck out of this. They've totally misrepresented the word science.
Yeah, if you're a fraud, you're going to represent yourself as being something that you're not, using their words, the people you're impersonating. It's their words, their language.
So the Earth is obviously and observably motionless, and the Earth is obviously and observably flat.
Right.
And yet all our senses tell us that. And then, oh no, we're spinning at these crazy speeds, depending where you're at, and all this other stuff. And they've got the whole world fooled on that.
Yep. Unless we're in the middle of a paradigm shift. This is a slow release process that is part of the narrative and all preordained, pre-orchestrated. You just don't know.
Well, I'm not doubting that the flat Earth is an issue now for just what you said. There is a reason why it's resurging. So let me see if I could summarize it. So from all time up until Copernicus, everybody thought the Earth was flat and motionless. All of a sudden, from Copernicus on to now, everyone thinking it's a globe spinning and universe and vacuum and all this crap. And now we're going back towards, hey, wait a minute. We're going to challenge all these pseudoscience statements. So what's coming next? Yes, I think there is a reason for it. And it might be multiple answers to it, but yes, there is. Because all they got to do is send one of these little spacecrafts of theirs to the moon with a nice megapixel camera, like a really high one, and aim it at Earth. No, they rather send it to Mars and have it as a rover. Well, if you could send it to Mars, why don't you send it to the moon and start showing 24/7 of the Earth? Is that you typing, Anthony?
Sorry, yeah. What have I missed?
Not much.
We just chat in 10th man. We're saying what NASA have got to do, or they have got to do, is what they say they've done already. And given that they've had to fake it, that's not likely. Given that the journey that they're going to take is going to be debunked by the medium they say they're travelling through, that's not going to be really flying either, unfortunately, 10th man. So you say all they've got to do is go to the moon. What, through the violation of a law of nature known as the sky vacuum?
Well, I wasn't saying that, but you're right. I was saying in their narrative, they can send stuff to Mars and Saturn and take pictures and shadows on Saturn's ring. Sure. Well, why don't you just send one of those things to the moon with a nice high megapixel camera and show Earth spinning? Oh, we can't do that. Well, first of all, you can't even get there because you can't get into that medium because there's no vacuum. Whole agreement with that. It's just nonsense when you call them out on it.
Right.
No more begging the question with these idiots.
Been saying that for probably 12 months.
Keep
Bollocks.
saying it.
Keep
saying it.
Yeah, I have.
Just because
you've
you love
hold
the
on.
Coriolis discussion, you know.
I knew that was coming. Just because in the very, very recent past, I've been guilty of it twice, right? Once was when I was like, yeah, you can have your bloody gravity, have it at 200% effect for Newtonian and Einsteinian when I'm talking about gas pressure without a container. Shout out to Mark Sargent, who's doing a very good job of explaining this narrative in simplistic terms. Good job, Mark. Anyway, yeah, I've said that, and you've gone, I'm over here fighting about bloody gravity, and you're saying you can have them, you bastard. So yeah, okay, that's count one, I'll admit it. Count two is in regards to Coriolis. Now, I can't believe I'm saying your words. In order to explore the actual argument, I can't believe I'm bloody saying this. These are your words out of my mouth. You're a sod, Anthony.
The thing is, I there was a time when I used to love begging the question with 7/6R, right? And we had loads of like back and forth on the Isle of Man stuff, right? Debates, 77 onwards to about 100. So we begged the question for a long time, and we battered them and realised that was begging the question, affirming the consequent nonsense thing. But that then, by doing that, it gave us the bigger picture that made us realise that why should we even let them beg the question? And it's the same with Coriolis, and it's the same with pretty much a lot of the things. You've still got to prove that the Earth's turning before you can start arguing pendulums are being caused by it. Because if the Earth's not turning, then pendulums are not being caused by it. You can't beg the question, affirm the consequent.
Absolutely.
Bless you.
Hello, who is that? Oh, hey, the one.
Hello, guys. What's up?
Hello.
Oh, absolutely. I thought.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, it's good to like dine with the enemy by letting them beg the question. So long as everyone remembers and realizes that we are allowing them to beg the question, just for the sake of the show. I mean, it is good conversation when they get hecked up over whether or not there's an external frame of reference compared to the internal reference and the inertial and the non-inertial and all these stupid terms. It's like you're creating the picture yourself, literally creating your own picture. Who gives a shit? Still prove that it's curving or turning before we have the conversation. Who's drawing? It sounds like somebody's got a whiteboard up and they're drawing like a Rolf Harris-styled kangaroo.
Really?
Yeah. Who is that? Is that 10th man?
Probably you.
I'm not doing anything.
It sounds clip perfect here, other than some stupid bird outside my window, but that's not coming through my mic.
I can hear it.
Somebody's making white noise. There is definitely somebody making white noise. Who the hell is that?
Can you still hear it now?
No.
No.
It was you.
I would say it's probably you, sir.
Yeah, you
Hang
better
on 2
stop
minutes,
because you're
I'm
going to
just gonna
cause
switch
Bitcoin
something
to go
on.
down.
Not even...
Don't rumpus him. Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, Bitcoin's nosediving again. Less than 6,700 now. 6,697. It's lost so much in the last 3 or 4 days.
Let it go, Anthony. Let it go.
Oh no, I'm watching it. If it goes down as far as 5, I'm buying some. I'll just.
You know how long? Do you know how long they've kept silver and gold down on purpose?
Yeah,
They're
it
gonna
is
push
controlled.
It's all controlled. They're going to push Bitcoin even lower. You'll kick yourself if you buy it at 5.
It is going to go lower.
Oh,
I think it'll go down.
God, please save me from this. Yeah, Megatron.
Does that mean that you wouldn't buy them right at the moment? Then no.
No, my
I'll be able
strategy
to.
is simple. I have property with my own water and food. And when it all happens, you could see if you can live on Bitcoin and while I'm eating lettuce and meat. We'll see who lives. And then people will bring me their Bitcoin for a gallon of water. How's that?
When the grid goes down, how are you going to access your Bitcoin? That's an interesting thought to think about.
They control it all.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Sleeping Warrior, and Paul in G+. How you all doing?
Yo, yo.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, I'm here too.
Oh, hey, Chocolate. Didn't see you there. Good to have you. Oh, and the one as well. My bad.
No worries.
And we've also got a few people joining us in Discord as well. So a very warm welcome to all of you as well.
Welcome, crickets from Discord.
Welcome, Batman.
There you go. Somebody said something. Can't
Yay.
fault them. Hooray. Any signs of Earth curvature?
No, definitely not.
Not from Hawaii.
No,
Not so-
Black Sea was flat last time I checked, a month ago.
So fast. Got a few new guests. Anyone in Discord? Any signs of Earth curvature? Should all be off mute.
No signs of Earth curvature.
Any signs of axial
trying to find
rotation? Oh, go on.
Somebody said he's still trying to find it.
Oh, okay. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Definitely not.
Definitely don't have an axis to go around.
Only thing we can ascertain is that the sky appears to be turning in two focal points. Doesn't mean there's an axis, doesn't mean that they're curving around each other and that are antipodal to each other. We just see two rotation points. We don't appear to be going around any curve. There's no measurable curve. There's definitely no measurable rotation. Now, what is going on? Who cares? But if you're going to claim that the Earth is turning, then you better well be able to demonstrate it with some scientific measurements, proving that it's the Earth turning rather than the sky. And they can't do it. All that science, Nathan. You'd think that after hundreds of years of science, they'd be able to demonstrate that easily, wouldn't you?
Speaking of science, any scientific evidence of gravity?
Don't know what you're talking about.
We'll have to have a definition for gravity because we don't really know what gravity is anymore. It used to be a force until World War One. Then they changed it. It's not a force, and now it doesn't even exist. So what is it we're asking?
Anthony, I have one definition. That's the thing that never existed.
You have one definition? What?
That's the thing that never existed.
I'm sorry, you said it fast.
It's a thing. It's a thing that never existed.
Ah, so did it? So if it's something that never existed, how do we prove that?
Well, you need a wardrobe first. Then you have to open the wardrobe, go through it, and then observe some stuff constantly falling down at that place.
Well, since you bring up a wardrobe, that argument is simply top drawer.
Oh my
God. So good.
Oh my god.
Somebody knock him out, quick.
I'll say this: the Globetards are getting more sophisticated in their arguments because they're saying now the reason things fall down is because they have mass. That's all they're saying now. They're not even using the word gravity anymore.
Because they have mass.
Yeah, but just because they have mass, things fall down, and because they have mass.
But mass is not a force according to the rumpus, so how could that possibly be?
Not
Obviously.
Not only that, you've got things like helium that have no mass.
So come on, Paul, play devil's advocate with me. How can it possibly be when the rumpus, the authority that he is, claims that mass is not a force, but if it's going to be falling down and accelerating, there must be a force there. So what is that force?
Well, it's the force due to gravity. It's not gravity is not a force, but gravity produces a force.
See, you seem to be in a state of contradiction there, Paul.
Really? How's that a contradiction?
That's not Paul. That's Zanuck you're talking to.
I know.
Exactly.
No, I know. I realise that we're playing role play here. Paul is Zanuck at this point.
Hey, Arwen.
Hello.
Hello.
Or
Asian.
So if gravity's not a force, Paul, then you can't have gravity making a mass fall down, can you? Because gravity is not a force. Mass isn't a force either, but that mass is moving. So what's making it move? This, oddly, Paul, this is the question that Julian Bloomfield, PhD at MIT, thought that I was being a troll when I was asking him the question, well, what made Newton's apple start to move when it snapped off the stalk? And the answer, of course, is, well, it's not gravity being a force, so it couldn't be that by his own logic or his own citation. So what does make it happen? Because mass is not a force, because Rumpus said so. but something's making it move, and it is moving, and we can explain it completely. It's all relative density, isn't it? It's the apple relative to the medium it's in. We know that. It's obvious, but they don't want to say it, but it's true.
But gravity is not a force, but it creates a force, Anthony. Come on. It creates a force. Come on. Don't you understand this? Don't you understand?
Oh, don't tell me. It represents itself.
You're good, Paul.
Hold on, I want to answer these. I know it's only fun, but I still want to answer these reply.
Also, don't tell me, Paul, in the four-dimensional world known as space and time, there is something that happens that we represent in our three-dimensional world as a force, and that's the thing that makes the apple fall.
But come on, you just don't get it. You just don't understand. That's what it is. You just don't understand.
Okay,
Anthony.
right, fine.
Come on,
that's great. That's great. I can draw a line under then. So no scientific evidence of gravity. Moving on.
I think what happens, Nathan, is if they say the word space-time in any context, in any sentence, no matter what, as long as they say space-time, that to them is getting the tick in the box that, yeah, I've explained that. That's how it's sorted, right? Because it makes them sound intelligent, space-time.
What about it?
Well, that's their answer, space-time.
Not an answer. That's the description of a conceptual medium. What about it?
When you hear them talking about it, so long as they can get the word space-time into their answer, it doesn't really matter how they answer it. As long as they can get space-time into it, it's like, I don't know, it's just like a key word that they go, space-time.
Wait, I got it. It's the vector down. Things move down. There's a vector that moves down. And things
also
move
up.
Towards...
No, that's defied by gas law. Look, I just still want to get to the end of Anthony's point, Paul. No, things don't just move down, things also move up. So let's just move past that quickly and say, what do you mean space-time? Space-time is a conceptual medium, right? So what about it? We're looking for scientific evidence of gravity, and you're saying their answer is space-time. That's not an answer to anything. That's just two words that mean a conceptual medium.
Well,
I'm done. Go ahead.
Anthony?
That's about as good as it gets from me.
Is that it? Oh, right. Bloody hellfire.
All of us know how to think, so we can't go any further.
It usually resorts to you just don't understand it, and I'm like, no, you're right, I don't understand it.
I can do without it. Do without it.
Neither do you.
Hello. Do without it. Don't care. A bit down. A bit ill. Let's move on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I think we need a definition for what is the sun first. We need to prove that it's physical, tangible. We can fly around it and come back, see the backside of it.
Is it B-Rain in the Discord server? If you're going to come off mute, you need to make sure your watch page is muted. So we don't know what the sun is.
Yesterday on 24/7, Zanuck declared that the sun makes entropy go down. So apparently he still doesn't understand entropy and our argument for entropy.
And also mass reduces entropy too, by the way. Mass does also.
He says reduces entropy. That's a nonsense.
Because the guy who was asking him, he was trying to... they were in the discussion of entropy, and Zanuck asserted, he was like, well, what does the sun do to the entropy? So the guy said it increases entropy, and he claimed, you're so wrong, you're wrong, because the sun, its entropy is going down, and it's making the entropy of Earth going up. It was like, that's the point.
That's entropy increased.
So he was arguing against his own point, like he didn't even understand. It was hilarious.
Right, entropy. The rate of entropy can go down. Entropy doesn't go down. That's a nonsense statement.
Yep.
You can slow the effects.
Until he circled back at the end when he realized the sun's own entropy increases, obviously, because its energy is running out, and the Earth, it increases the entropy of the Earth. But not realizing that was the guy's point the whole time. So Zanuck himself doesn't understand it still.
Maybe he doesn't understand the difference between increase and decrease.
Well, I heard Zanuck actually say, not Zanuck, who was it? Well, because if mass is keeping the atmosphere in lockstep, so to speak, then mass has to reduce entropy as well, right?
The best way I find to remember it, guys, is entropy is like the word decay. The more decay, the worse things are. Like it's reducing back to its bare basics, right? Its basic elements. If it's got low entropy, then it's not in it's in a low state of decay. If it's got high entropy, it's in a high state of decay. So like an ant's nest is like a bustling town of ants, isn't it? And that's got really, really low entropy because it's lots of things happening. But when the ant's nest is dead and they're no longer in it anymore, and it's just a scar on the horizon, no ants anymore, all the eggs are dead and all that, and they've moved on, that's the highest state of entropy. Nothing's changing. No energy.
It's pretty simple, right?
Any evidence?
Yeah, it's another one of those backwards explanations like Coriolis and the non-rotating reference frame, and it's just designed to confuse.
It confuses the guy who goes on physics forums to find the answers and then comes in here and tells us we don't understand. Yeah, it's confusing, all right. For him.
Well, go ahead, Chocolate. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, I'm done.
I was actually watching because this definition of mass, I was just looking it up just to see yesterday, just to get an idea. And it's funny, anytime they talk about mass, it's always in relationship to another heavenly body, so to speak. You know, because it's the attractive force. So, you know, gravity is this attractive force, and you can have the same amount of something, but have a different mass. You know what I mean? Like they always relate it to the moon. Like the moon has a lower mass because it's smaller, has a less gravitational pull than, let's say, the Earth, because it has more mass, a greater gravitational pull. But if you think about that right off the bat, how could you ever verify that? You know what I mean? You'd have to, if for that definition to hold true, you would have to do experiments on the moon, so to speak, which I think that's one reason they supposedly went to the moon. But it starts to fall apart because anytime you start thinking about weight and mass, there starts to be a connection between weight and mass, even though they say weight and mass are not the same. Do you understand what I'm driving at? It's like double speak, twisting it around.
It's a non-stop shell game. It's one equivocation after the next. Hey, Flatzoid.
Flatzoid?
Hello, how's it going?
Well, first of all, they can't go to the moon, Paul, because the medium doesn't exist that they say. Second of all, gravity is now the force, so they can't use that. So the whole argument is begging the question.
And then how is mass different to relative density or density and mass? What's the in common?
Well, relative density's got a vector in the sense that it's got a direction and a magnitude, whereas mass doesn't have any direction or magnitude or density or vector. So mass is a scalar. Relative density is an action.
Yeah, that's why, Anthony, I said only density after this. So density and mass.
Yeah, you need to say the word relative density because then you're referencing two densities together, and they'll either be similar or not similar or whatever, and that'll give you your magnitude and your direction, therefore your vector, and everything can be explained. They just don't like it.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Just an 8-mile hole drilled in North Russia, some Murmansk in North Russia. That's as far as they've got. They made. Oh, let's just put this into context as well. They made some seismological predictions, 4 key ones, and all 4 were wrong, thus bringing the credibility and the validity and the reliability of seismological predictions into question. So when you hear people questioning about or demonstrating that it must be an Earth because of seismology, just bring them back to the 4 points that seismology predicted at the Kola Super Deep Borehole and remind them that all 4 turned out to be wrong.
I think that this molten iron core is the most far-fetched thing that they've ever came with. That's so ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's sad that they use it as evidence.
Where is it? Show me some molten iron from the core.
Just a cartoon drawing in the books, that's all.
All just concepts. Everything they do is concepts.
And a very bad movie.
The core.
Yeah, absolute rubbish.
Yeah, that movie was pretty bad.
Any evidence of the R value itself, the presupposition of a spherical radius?
R.
In R we trust.
Arwen, it's your time to say it.
The only time there's any evidence of R is
R?
when we beg the question and we talk about refraction, horizons, bendy light, all that nonsense.
No, it's time for a prayer
I
from
feel like
Arwen.
we retired that, right? We don't talk about curve calculators anymore. That nonsense got retired.
I got a bit of a not a thought experiment, but just some thoughts on. I was thinking about this a couple of days ago, and I couldn't get on the show to talk about it. But we talk about buoyancy and density and the relative density, and things are always trying to find that equilibrium between the two. If you just stop and think about it just for 1 second, where do most of the dense things we use come from?
Like ground?
Here.
From the ground. From the ground. Well,
From the ground.
Yeah.
the one is right. I mean, iron comes from the ground, aluminum comes from the ground, and even plants pull minerals from the ground. They pull them into to cause processes to occur, but they're being pulled from the ground, and obviously they're wanting to seek back. They want to go back to where they came from, so to speak. So, the more you think about it, it's always like that relative density thing comes back into play no matter what. So everything wants to seek wherever it's at equilibrium at, and obviously if we pull something from the ground, it wants to go back to where it came from, so to speak. Something to think about.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
The plant's got to grow
It's like
first,
what
right?
It's like what
And
Anthony
that-
did, right? with
Hold
the-
on.
That's like Riley's.
Hold on 1
little,
second, Chocolate. Go ahead, Silent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Silent.
Yeah, it's like what Anthony did with his video, where he puts like numbers on the things that to simulate where they were gonna stand, right? And if you get the periodic table and you assign numbers to each of those based on the density of the material, you can align them like where they're gonna be.
Yeah. They don't like that. It's funny because they say, well, what happens when you put it in a 0G plane? And I say, we are in the 0G plane. Obviously, I'm playing on words.
Let me give that some qualification. What Anthony means by that is we're at equilibrium. We're at zero. The fact that they arbitrarily apply a 1 value, 1G, when in fact you're in equilibrium, and then say when you're in free fall, that's 0. That's a nonsense. That's just a moving up of the scale. Doesn't mean that we're experiencing a 1G force of anything. That's horseshit. We're in equilibrium. We're not falling. We're not rising.
I'm playing on 2 parts. I'm playing on the 0G, meaning no gravity, because gravity is not a force, right? But I'm also playing on the word plane. So when they say plane, they're on about fuselage thing, but wings. I'm on about planes and not curve.
When they say on a plane 0G, they mean in free fall on the Vomit Comet. You say on a plane in 0G, you mean standing where you are, not rising or falling.
Yeah.
Right, I get you.
It just works. But obviously, and then when I remind them that their plane isn't actually a 0G plane, I remind them that it's a plane falling out the sky at a constant velocity. Its more accurate description should be a constant velocity plane, just velocity in the vertical vector rather than in the horizontal, like lateral vector. They don't like that. They call it. They insist that it's called 0G, and I'm like, no, it's a constant velocity plane. That's literally what it is, and they don't like it.
Nothing zero about falling. Anyway, just last but no means least, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container for all the fundamentalist religious zealots who believe in outer space, i.e. that the sky is a vacuum?
Somebody quote a teacher.
Pressure.
And to make that more specific, what we mean by vacuum, we don't mean necessarily specifically a low pressure system. We mean a lack of anything. That's what vacuum more specifically means, because you can have a low pressure system in a pressurized system with a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, you've got to have gas pressure to begin with. Hold on, let me just clarify what Paul's just said, though, or quantify what Paul's just said. You've got to have gas pressure to begin with, though, to have that varying degree of gas pressure, right?
Yes.
So, to have gas pressure in the first place, you've got to have something to press upon.
And a vacuum, which means there's nothing to press upon,
Correct.
Not even other particles. There's
Exactly.
no other particle to press on.
Right. Exactly. So when we get, oh, well, a plane wing creates a differential of pressure. It's like, where did you get the gas pressure to have that differential in the first instance? First comes the gas pressure, then comes the gas pressure differential, or gas pressure gradient, or anything else that is essentially a delta of the gas pressure. Where'd you get the gas pressure first? Well, it's got to be the walls of a container. That's what gives you the area that will give you the measurement for the gas pressure. The area of what? Well, the container, obviously. So the assertion that the sky is a vacuum is a nonsense assertion. It's the beginning, middle, and end of the death of the heliocentric model. The sky is not a vacuum. Outer space is fake. Every assertion that has ever been made from that fake medium of outer space debunks any claim that's made in that fake region. The sky is not a vacuum. The gas would fill the space. We have gas pressure. The sky, therefore, cannot be a vacuum. Space is fake. That concludes the housekeeping.
Well, wait a minute. Let me play Johnny Goldhead just for a second. But the particles of gas have mass, Nathan. Don't you know that? And they have this vector. They want to move and accelerate back towards the ground.
No, they don't. No.
That's what they say.
I don't care what they say. Gas expands in all directions. To fill the available volume it has to fill. It's not moving in a downward vector. It's expanding in all directions. That's what gas does.
Rumpus made a claim yesterday, Nathan. Do you remember? Do you remember me mentioning it?
Vaguely.
Rumpus said that it's perfectly acceptable to have gas pressure without a container. I can't actually remember what he said after that, but I thought I did ask you to address it because it was hilarious. I'm going to find it because it was so good. It's just worthy of recite today.
It was funny. Zanuck yesterday said something. He actually had gas pressure without a container, but when he started pressing him down on it, the electromagnetic field was containing it. So
the force field of gravity.
Yeah. So he
bastard.
Yeah, but so he was like saying it doesn't have a container, but when you started unpacking what he was saying, it was a magnetic field that was containing it. So think about it. It was still being contained. It still had a container, even though it was the magnetic field. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, they're referring probably to the Van Allen radiation belts.
The word pressure has press in it. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. For those pressure deniers out there.
Right. Pressure needs to press. Correct.
That's semantics.
Words and their meanings. Yeah, that's right, Chocolate.
Yeah. But,
that's what he said. I found it. This glorious nugget from Rumpus. This has got to be one of those instant classic comments that went unnoticed yesterday, but we should copy and paste it. It says, this is what Rumpus said. He says, gas pressure can exist perfectly happily without a container. If something like gravity exerts a force on the gas particles, easy and observed to be correct. Oh yeah? Tell me again about what gravity is, Rumpus. And the lack of whatever it is, it's not a force. So how is it going to be pulling on the gas pressure particles? It isn't, is it? But you do need a force to stop them from bursting off into space, because obviously Newton's first law of motion states that an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by a force, and you haven't got one, have you? So why is it not bursting into space, Rumpus? Come on, join the panel, Rumpus, and let's hear you explain your way out of this one. Gravity is not a force.
And Newton's laws of motion were not right.
Oh, don't tell him that before he joins. He might not join, Nathan.
Well, maybe this will help. Explain to me how gravity is not a force, but it creates a force.
It doesn't create a force.
It creates a force.
Let me just answer these before they get off the starting blocks. It's not creating a force. It's not a force. It's the bending of a conceptual medium. The bending of a concept. Now, I don't care what anybody says. That's not giving rise to anything. It's the bending of a concept.
Oh, that gives rise to a lot of bullshit.
It gives rise to a lot of bullshit. That's right, the one. Very accurate.
But I've heard Ant-Man say that gravity is a force.
Well, it isn't. I don't care.
Literally everywhere.
Now they're just thinking it's a force. So
No, Ant-Man said in that parody, it's not a force, but it's also a force.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Misquoted you there.
Hey, Owen, I heard somebody not redefine, but rephrase what we call relative density disequilibrium. It was suggested that perhaps it could be called entropic disequilibrium, and I quite like that. It sounds almost it sounds like all paradise.
We had an endless conversation with QE, Dr. John D, you, me, a whole bunch of people. It's a second order effect. To call it entropic disequilibrium or whatever you called it is incorrect. It's a second order effect.
It sounds better than gravity.
I don't care. It's not accurate. Relative density disequilibrium, if you're trying to describe the effect of forcing something out of an equilibrium and then dropping it in place of gravity, relative density disequilibrium, as Arwin coined, is extremely accurate. But utilising a second order effect of entropy in this regard is just not accurate. Sorry. Yeah, it might sound nice, I don't care.
RDD.
I mean, if you think about it, though, I mean, I've said this before, and I think I've said it on here many times. Like, even when I was looking at math, they start to appeal to the heavenly bodies to translate something to cause something. You know, everything is like they have to look to the stars to figure out the ground. They have to look at the stars to figure out mass. They have to look at the stars to do all kinds of things. But if you look at the ground, there's a lot of things can be explained without appealing to the stars in our understanding.
Yeah, but they have to, Paul. They have to. Otherwise, it's bye-bye bullshit space. They have to constantly talk about space and stars and vacuum and gravity and all those bullshit.
To me, I think water boiling in a vacuum is their death knell, because to have life, to have anything on here, you've got to have pressure to have liquid water.
Absolutely.
So to me, the whole process falls apart with water boiling in a vacuum chamber. It starts to fall apart.
And that destroys the whole bullshit narrative with the global warming and rising of the sea levels, because you can never have less or more water on Earth. It will always remain the same.
Have you guys discussed gravitational waves? Because I was recently having a heated discussion with my brother about gravity. And after I destroyed his argument, he proceeded to ask me if I had looked into gravitational waves. I haven't. I just was wondering if you guys had already destroyed that. Sure, it has an easy destruction.
That's claimed to be a phenomena, but they can't prove what is causing it, because I could equally assert that I farted next to the camera and that perceived the thing that they claim was a movement. It was just the movement of me just going, and they couldn't prove that it's not. Prove what they claim is the gravitational wave, not just observe it and call it something because it seems to be suitable for you.
What's it supposed to do?
Oh yeah, what I was going to say, what's it supposed to be? So if there's a claim that this is a detection of the bending of a conceptual medium, my next question would be, let me get it straight. You're detecting the bending of a concept. That doesn't sound very sensical to me. But maybe they can explain it to you next time it's brought up.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Exactly. What are they detecting when they're saying they're detecting a bending of a concept? How is that possible? How can you detect, a bending of a conceptual medium? It makes no logical sense whatsoever.
Concept waves, call it that.
But even in their own paradigm, it falls apart, because they're supposedly picking up this gravitational wave of a black hole colliding or something millions of light years away, right? well, there's all these other supposedly bodies that are fluctuating and orbiting and causing all these things going on in our own solar system. How do they remove all of that background noise to detect one little fluctuation of millions of light years away?
Yeah, and compare that to the radio signals to the moon. It's just...
There are no millions of light years away in a medium that doesn't exist, that they keep talking about, because Rumpus is saying gravity is a force and that's what keeps the atmosphere in. Yeah, but except gravity, even in their terms, is strongest at the level of the ground. So why is the gases rising if the gravity at the strongest point can't keep it down? It's so ludicrous.
But I've seen it on the telly.
Yeah. See a lot of things on the telly.
And my teacher in school said so.
Yeah, well, cause and effect.
We were getting, this is how they muddy the waters, too. We got into a discussion yesterday about Anthony's paper, and I was talking to Danny T about it. And, you know, I was talking specifically about evolutionary biology, you know, which means is how we got where we are today. He shifted it to just pure biology. You see a problem with this argument right off the bat. I'm talking about how things, they're talking about how things developed to get where it is today. That's what I'm talking about. But then he started talking about how things are today. And then we started going back and forth. And then I realized that's what he was doing. He was saying, well, biology is good. We need to understand how things work. We need to categorize things and all this stuff. I'm going like, yeah, I agree with that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how we got to where we are. The evolutionary side of the problem. There's no other option, you know, and it was they always shift the argument, you know, and make you focus on one thing and instead of focusing on the thing you're talking about. This happens a lot, I've noticed. In this discussion. We got to stay on top of it when we're doing that argument, when we're in discussion.
Deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, information encoded in the cells. No chance, not from chaos. It's information. It is because it's coded to be what it is. It was always that way. That's biology.
Yeah, and actually that video I dropped in the Master B, I don't know if you guys saw it. This guy's a chemist, and he goes through the process, and he talks about how they tried to produce, and they actually made a molecular car, and he talked about what all the processes it took to get it to do that. And the problem they run into is like when you look at the molecules that are necessary for biological processes to occur, you know, he was doing it in a laboratory with a lot of controls, changing different conditions to get the desired result. In the beginning of life, in the very beginning of the premortal soup, you don't have none of that. You don't have the scientist in his lab coat controlling the environment, making sure you get the pieces together that you need and putting them in the right order, failing on one sense and having to make up for the difference. In the early beginnings of life, none of that's in play. You know, you might need one piece to start a molecule that might be on the other side of the planet. How does it get there? I don't think FedEx was around at that time to get it over there so it can function properly.
Yeah. Just nonsense.
Everything is designed. It's obvious. You just have to look at it. It's right there. It's designed. Apples produce apple trees, not orange trees.
But over time, no. Here, I'm going to play the globe part again. But over time, 10th man, you can change a pear tree into a lemon tree.
You're absolutely correct.
With slight changes and variation over time, you know, that can cause it.
No, you're absolutely correct. It takes an outside force working with things that already are, changing the molecular. And they do it now. They got trees that bear 4 different fruits because they take the branch from 4 different trees and put it on the stem of the root. And one tree can give you 4 different fruits. But that just tells you it takes an outside intelligence to do that. So it took an outside intelligence, an infinite God who made everything, period. We're only working with things that are already made. We can't make things out of nothing.
But 10th man, no, come on now, 10th man. You don't need an intelligent agent. All the chemical processes, they can just cause it. It'll just happen. You know, if you put the right conditions in place, certain slight changes here and there, you don't need an intelligent agent. Just the chemical processes will cause it.
Good. Show it to me. Show it to me. Something from nothing.
Where do those chemicals come from?
How did they get created, Paul?
Right.
Big
Not
Bang.
one transitional form. Not one transitional form.
Zanuck was telling me yesterday that you can actually get a gill to a lung through a gradual process. I think about that. A gill is designed to extract oxygen from water. A lung is designed to extract oxygen from air. Wouldn't there be a point where it would have to try to learn to breathe both oxygen and water at the same time? Typically, when you put water in a lung, what happens? The organism dies. So, you know,
You can't get a gill to a lung because the DNA for a gill produces gills and the DNA for a lung produces lungs.
Absolutely.
Doesn't have the code for a gill in a lung DNA. You only have the code for a lung in the lung DNA.
Where did any of those get the code from? Oh, okay.
Well, and Danny was telling me like I was talking about protein folding and how proteins function. He used the wrench example, which is typically what I hear when I have evolutionary people talk about it. Well, you know, like you can use a wrench to drive in a nail. It wasn't designed to drive in a nail, but it can do it. You know, and I started thinking about that analogy. First of all, it's a false equivalency right off the bat. But even if I beg the question with him, eventually, if you keep using a wrench to drive in a nail, eventually the wrench will stop driving nails because it'll break, and it'll also stop being able to be used on nuts. You know what I mean? So it becomes dysfunctional right off the bat. But then even you got to have the problem of carrying it over, that information over to the next generation. So if it's broke, how does that carry that information over to the next generation? It's got to. It can't if it's broke and it doesn't function. So how does it carry it? So right off the bat, natural selection, even in that process, falls apart. It's funny.
It dies with DNA. We don't even have to listen to these idiots because the information is what makes the thing what it is. Who put the information in there?
That's why I keep asking. Where are these things coming from? Where is the code for the apple tree, the apple seed? Where does that come from? How do people think all of this came from nothing? It's beyond me.
Oh, I'll be a monkey's uncle. Oh, I see. Rumpus just chatted with me. He says, "10th man, how do you manage to be so ignorant?" Well, come on the show live, Rumpus. Let's have it. Come on. Come on, Rumpus. I'm calling you out, Rumpus.
Hey guys, I got some news.
Ooh.
So
Big news, everyone. Big news.
Big news, everyone. Now I'm actually going on the Globe Lite tour.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Nice.
It just happened. I was like, I got invited yesterday through Skype by Adam and Roxanne and all of them, Jason, and they kind of put me on the spot, like, we really, really, really want you to come. We need you. Look, we left an exact Arwen-sized spot open on the schedule for you as a driver. So I was like, come on. I really want to, but I didn't think I could financially manage it, especially if I'd have to sit through a train trip of 16 hours on the way back. So I thought, okay, if I can get kind of money together to at least get a plane ticket, so I can get back, pretty quickly after a week of on the road, I'll do it. And yeah, that just happened on the show this morning. So I'm going, and I'm gonna go on my first ever conscious airplane trip too, because I haven't been on a serious airplane travel since I was literally 0.
Wow.
Baby.
Okay,
I'm gonna
Very good.
and I'm gonna have that P900 with me all the way too, by the way.
Oh, on the plane you have.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty incredible.
Hey, can someone put up Rumpus's comment? I just posted the Master B. This is hilarious.
Also, my first time in Poland.
You'll have to volunteer
Never
someone,
been
10th
there.
man.
Paul, can you do it, please?
I'm working on it. Give me a second. I heard you say that. I had to get back to my laptop or my tablet. Hang on.
Rumpus, come on the show. Let's make it a toe tag.
Shout out to the Dumpus. Rumpus,
I think
I'm sorry.
his opportunity passed momentarily.
Rumpty
So we've now
Dumpty.
got, hold on a second. We've now got 16 people in the Discord server, so that's the maximum. It wasn't the case when you were first calling him out, which is why I didn't say it then.
Yeah, well, wait until you read this post.
Okay, you presented, Paul.
Oh, this is for 10th man, not me. I just presented it for him. Go ahead, 10th man.
Yeah, the Rumpus. 10th man, you moron. All of the cells in the body have all the code for all of the body. But in a lung, only the lung DNA is active. Let's see, Rumpus. The one cell amoeba, single cell amoeba has the code for a single cell amoeba. Dingbat. What a dingbat.
I think he missed the point too. The question really comes down to, does the fish have the code for the lung in it? That's the question. He's right that certain genes are turned on and turned off to create the lung, create the nerves, or to create whatever in the body. But the question really comes down, does the fish have the information to create the lung?
You'd have to ask Aquaman.
And I think you mean the gill, if he's referencing lungs. Your example was in regards to transitions. So what you just to summarise, you're essentially saying, yeah, but does the code contained within the lung have the code for a gill?
Well, either direction, it's the same way. So you'd have to have the same code, either create the gill or the lung in the same DNA strand to do either one. Or even in that, you have to transition, even in the code, you have to transition from the gill DNA or the DNA or the code for the gill to transition into the code for the lung.
A rudimentary study of DNA, and I've read several books on DNA, is very simple. It only has the code for what it is. It doesn't have the code for what it's not. This is so basic.
Yeah, Rumpus is basic. We all know that.
Ooh, there are fishes with lung DNA and there are fishes without lung DNA. Wow, Rumpus. Awesome. What is the point? What does that prove?
Here's what it proves. I lung for fish and chips.
No. Just no.
So he
go have some.
Wait a minute.
So good.
So he's saying that fishes have the code for lungs in them. Am I reading
There are
that right?
lungfishes, yes.
Well, what if it's a short fish?
Type and not mammals or anything.
Okay, what about a trout? How about this, Rumpus? Does a trout have a DNA for the lung in it?
Wait, he's saying most fishes do not have lung DNA, but some fishes have lungs and so do have lung DNA?
Yeah, there's a lungfish. There's fishes
Right.
with lungs. It doesn't prove anything.
Right. Why would not? I don't understand the point. That the fish with lungs have lung DNA? Okay. What the hell are you saying, Rumpus?
And where did it get the information to begin with? How did the information get in there?
It's nonsense.
It is.
Just the designer, you know?
Okay,
if he can make it, he'll do it.
So if he's correct, then technically a human should have the DNA of the gill still in its DNA, right? If he's right.
Yeah, and my lizard tail.
Horns,
yes, you're right,
perhaps?
Paul. Do you want to just repeat that?
To me, or
Yeah.
the one?
No, Paul.
If he's right, then technically we should still have the gill DNA in our DNA.
Right, just not
Or
active.
the remnants of it.
Yeah, just not
Remnants.
active.
Right. And so these scientists in a lab could actually, or anybody that's a geneticist should be able to go inside of a human, find that DNA information coding, and turn it on. And then a human should be able to grow gills, right?
Well, there are already mutation possibilities like that, and it's in a lot of light forms. If you start to screw with DNAs, yeah, you're screwing with the building blocks, and all kinds of properties can suddenly come out and potentially ruin the entire organism at the same time. But yeah, things are possible.
Natural mutations are loss of information. What a scientist does with cloning sheep, it only proves it takes an outside force with intelligence to change a DNA. That's all that does. But
the issue with evolution and genetic alteration is that pragmatically, from practical research, if a core DNA is mutated, it'll just become weaker and it'll not help procreation at all. So the theory that mutation can lead to some kind of better species is just always wrong. That's not how genetics work at all.
Well, wait a minute. Drumpus just said something else that's also problematic. He said that humans do not necessarily have gill DNA. DNA that is not used is disposed of. Well, here's a problem with that. There is actually systems inside the cell. Hold on, of course, Lloyd decides to say something. That actually correct any kind of problems within the DNA. So they read the DNA. If there's a problem, it corrects it. So if you're saying, how did the system get rid of it, Rumpus? And also mutations in their systems in place. Also, if there's certain molecules that aren't correct in the system, it's also designed to scrub that out as well.
Right.
So you're running yourself into a wall.
Indeed. Buddy. You're completely right, Paul, because if you're gonna breed, as it were, like two people, for example, and there is certain like genetic weaknesses, then yeah, it's not like set in stone that genetic weakness will move on. If the partner simply has a better piece of that, and then it will actually tend to replace the broken part of the other side.
Well, there's something for sure with Rumpus.
So it outdoes it. Eventually.
There's something for sure that's true with Rumpus. He'd certainly got more on DNA than anybody.
Hey, QE. How you doing?
Thanks for breaking the point, 10th man.
Oh, you paused? I thought you were done.
Yeah, nah. Usually I'm done when I'm done.
Hello,
I have a question
How's
of
it going, guys?
biblical nature. If anyone wants.
Rumpus, you're an abject moron. You dodged the question, right? Show me how you can naturally form a single nucleoside chemically. We're not even talking about the information now. We're just going to drop anchor right here, you clown. You don't know dick about physics. Stay away from biology and biochemistry. I'll rip your lungs out. Clown show.
John, did you see that video I dropped? You probably didn't have a chance to watch it. I dropped it at Master B.
I didn't see it yet. I heard you also say something about the magnetic field containing gas pressure. Really?
That's what Xanax said. That's not me.
Oh my God. We're chasing down what Xanax says. This guy's name's Mud. He couldn't friggin' tie his shoes without assistance. And you got me chasing questions regarding Xanax.
Maybe you should just call him Xanax.
I mean, give me a break.
Xanax.
Show me an electromagnetic field containing gas pressure. Right now. I want to see it. What are you going to show me? The ionized gas in a vacuum in a chamber? Is that what you're going to show me? Hello, is my mic working?
Nobody was going to answer, so I was going to answer for them. Yes, that's what they'll probably show you. Yes.
Yeah.
In a
Are
chamber.
we done?
In a chamber, in a container, essentially.
Right. So, are we done with that?
Yeah.
We were done the minute it came up.
So 2 years from now in classrooms, it will be flat Earth taught, and they'll ask kids, do you remember when your parents thought they were living on a spinning ball?
Maybe. I don't know. I often question if this is a... I don't know how... Don't take this the wrong way, but when I say soft transition, it's obviously not soft for us on the on the fighting side of the argument in the trenches, but a soft transition, paradigm change, if you will.
It is happening. Slowly but surely.
Hey, John, real quick. That video I posted in Master B this morning talks about them how they actually made a molecular car, and it was a functional molecular car, and he goes through the process of how they went through to make that molecular car, and then he equates that to how we get the different molecules in our system, in our body, the biological aspect. Is really good. So if you want to watch it, it's really good. It's real technical, so but it's still really good.
Hey, QE, Rumpus just challenged you at 6:50 a.m. mark.
Challenge me. Give me a friggin' break, you knucklehead. I friggin' wasted you in 2016, June. I still have that debate. That's going to be going out on my channel very soon. 1 week in Flat Earth. Me and you for like 2.5 hours. It was like King Kong versus Milli Vanilli. Friggin' clown. I'll bet you don't even know what a nucleoside is. For crying out loud. You friggin' pretender clown knucklehead. You've been exposed more times than Mae West. I got a clown file on you. I think Yahoo's, I'm going to shut down Yahoo servers. Idiot. The last one was entropy doesn't apply to the Earth. Remember that one? My God.
That came
Elmer Fudd is blushing.
Mr.
That's your latest knucklehead statement. Oh, science doesn't prove things. Next sentence, next breath. Scientific proof. You're like a walking, talking, retarded Elmer Fudd.
Mr. Air is not the atmosphere.
Yeah, that should just do it. We'll just leave it with that. Tired of messing around in the hedgerows with these friggin' retards. Let's get some real pseudoscience retards, like Neil deGrasse Tyson or Brian Cox. Let's get some big guys in here defending their bullshit.
He actually said any platform. So if somebody wants to open a Discord where he can maybe add a few extra people so he can come in, let him come on right now.
Added plat. Fuck him.
John, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
This this question has to do with the photoelectric effect. You say that the light particles are hitting the plate. The plate's detecting them. Couldn't that just be heat?
No.
It's detecting. I was wondering about that. If you could enlighten me.
Couldn't that be what?
Heat. Like heat from the light that the plates are detecting in the photoelectric effect.
Heat? Like IR photons?
Yeah, that's a good example,
They're still photons, they're still particles. Has to do with
meaning they are
excuse me, kinetic energy and the work function. Photoelectric effect along with Compton scattering just solves it. It's not heat.
Yeah, that's what I was checking. I was researching into gravity and all that and other forces, and it's such a gray area. It's saying like I was looking up like it's sound force, and it's sound is described as something creating or something exerting a force that's causing vibrations, right? And And then also like heat is described by something, a force moving atoms, causing heat, making atoms move around faster. So, I mean, that right there says gravity ain't a force, because gravity, you're exerting a force to lift the object before it can fall back down. Same as like sound, a force has to exert the vibrations, and that's where that alone tells me that gravity isn't a force, just easily explained, because you have to, people word it different, but that's basically what it comes down to, is you have to exert the force to get the force. Same. So I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is relative density explains it just as well as anything.
My God. Go ahead, Chocolate. Take control.
No, I was gonna tell Dayan that he needs to mute so that we can hear what's going on. Dayan, can you hear us?
The one, go on mute.
They can't hear what he's saying in Discord because you're on.
Oh,
I don't think he can hear us.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Nathan, mute him.
I can't.
Mute him.
I can't. Can someone go into the back chat and mute him? While he absolutely destroys that channel. Wonderful, wonderful. Where I rely on you, Discord.
Yeah, I do. I like your work, John. I wasn't. I was just asking a question on that. That's a good explanation. I do like your work, but there does seem to be some gray areas in the whole subject. I'm always trying to question everything, and it just seems like it needs to be explained a little bit better. That's why a lot of people have problems, just because they don't really understand. I'm just trying to understand everything.
Right, but your summary is relative density pretty much explains it, correct?
Yeah, in a nutshell, it seems to. But like I said, there's a little bit of gray area. But the difference between energy and force is kind of gray, if you ask me. If you look into it, it seems to be kind of a little bit contradictory. I don't know. There's a fine line between energy and force.
Okay.
I ain't trying to kill the conversation, but it is.
No, it's all good. It's the one. I can't mute people, unfortunately.
I just realized now that you probably heard me.
No worries.
I because I stopped the sound and I saw that I didn't manage to click the mute button properly.
No worries. These things happen.
So we got Brenda on chat encouraging Rumpus to come on the show live, but Rumpus doesn't want to give Nathan Oakley 1980 any credit, but he's giving us credit by being in chat, so I don't understand the duplicity of Rumpus.
Yeah, thanks for the support. Really appreciate you being here, watching.
Shout out to Rumpus.
Shout out retracted.
Rumpus doesn't
Thank you.
get to double speak on this platform. No wonder he stays in chat. He can double speak all he wants in chat, but not on this platform, verbally.
Yeah, they know that. That's why they stay in chat.
And with that, I will say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream, then this is where we bid you farewell. Massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in, hopefully shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. And of course, a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this live show possible. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. As I say, stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Don't deny the sphere.
That's a good one. The emphasis of the voice.
Nathan, were you able to mute me?
Now I can't, since they got rid of Hangouts on air. I don't know if I could do it from the back chat, but I've never ever had access to the back chat. So I can't mute anybody in the Google Hangouts, which is why it's now a very limited crowd that goes in there, because I've got to trust that you'll actually mute yourself. Not that I'm moaning, it's just one of those things.
Was that too loud?
Well, just to let you know, the back chat's gone too. I thought as much. When I pulled the last one I saw active was on the 19th of August.
Yeah, it went with the live. Half the problems because of the back chat. So, it's now just down to a simple, it's just an equivalent to Skype now. And although I think you can actually mute people on Skype, can't you? Maybe you can. I can't remember.
Hey, Paul.
Yes.
Paul, can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because every time they ask, what is the definition of mass, right? And I've been thinking, what do you think about this definition? See me if it can be refined. A volume of any of the periodic table materials.
Yeah, given amount would be a mole.
That would be a
mole. A mole is a specific number of a given unit of something like an atom. Like an atom, or hydrogen atom. It's a specific number of those molecules, so to speak. And actually, a mole can apply to. Literally apply to anything. Right? I can have a mole of cell phones. So that'd be a massive amount of cell phones. You know what I mean? Did you understand that, or did you catch that?
No, I didn't get the last part. I guess it wasn't.
But a mole is basically the number of a particular particle of a substance. Like I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's so many hydrogen molecules will make up a mole. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that's not mass, right?
I'll just try and give that. It used to be carbon C12. Now it's changed. I can never. QE told me this 6 months ago, and I've never dedicated to memory. But the standard changed in quite recent times. Well, maybe not 6 months. It's probably about 12 months ago now that they changed the standard for a mole.
Yeah, I thought it was a number of specific particles of a substance.
It was. It was the number of atoms in C12 in carbon 12, right? Well, that standard's now changed, so.
Yeah, it's just number of elementary entities. It's the Avogadro's number.
Can you say that a bit? Hold on. Say that again a bit louder, QE. I didn't make out what you said.
Is my mic coming through okay?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, it's a mole is Avogadro's number of elementary entities now. That's the new definition. 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd, I think, something like that.
And that could be anything, John. Like, it would be more specific. Like, it could be a hydrogen.
Elementary entities.
Well, define that then. Define what I mean. What do you mean by
elementary entities? That means any elementary particles. Hydrogen. That means all subatomic particles.
Okay, that's what I was getting to. I thought that's what it was. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but it's still the amount of substance that contains, right? They just put a specific number on it. It doesn't change the amount of substance something contains. So you have big problems when you try to identify that with mass. Huge problem.
Yeah, it's like saying a dozen.
Right.
For example.
Right. It's still an amount. The specificity is secondary or tertiary to the point.
Yeah, the original question was in regards to mass, and then the qualification for it was the amount of quantity of something. well, that's a mole. It doesn't matter about how it's been qualified in terms of the number itself. That's irrelevant. It's the fact that it's the quantity of an amount of something, and that's also described as being mass when it's a mole. That's the point.
Yes. The mass is always.
But they also describe it as a resistance to motion, something like that, right?
Yeah, but no one's
that's inertia.
I was going to say no one's brought up inertia yet, though. So you jump in the gun a bit because, yeah, you're right. You're just a bit too ahead of them because no one said, "Well, hang on, what about?"
I'm sorry. I think
that comes next usually. But yeah, nice that you're on the ball.
Well, and then and mass is always so-called calculated using kilograms, right? Which is weight. That's where the other factor falls into play. And then they equate it to the so-called attractional force of a body, of another mass. So that's where it gets really messed up, I think, at that point too. Because then you say the weight of the same mass of a substance on the moon is different than the weight of here on Earth. But it gets really convoluted and messed up at that point.
Yeah, when I
And
went
that's
to
the part they cannot prove.
Yeah, but they can certainly demonstrate it in a rough way. So when I went to the Space Centre, they had this demonstration counter for gravity, and it had all different Heinz baked bean cans. And it was saying, well, this is what a baked bean can would weigh on the moon. This is what a baked bean can weighs here on Earth. This is what it would weigh on the sun. Here's what it would weigh on Jupiter, and so on and so forth. So the kids can come along to the bean cans and go, oh, now I understand. Because that proves it.
And it's all this is done through the word is maths. It's all done through maths. It's not empirical.
Yeah, the math started with Reverend John Michell and Cavendish, right? The extrapolations for the weight of all of these celestial bodies comes from that mathematics.
A couple of balls in a shed, right?
Yeah, but the derivative, the weight of the Earth, is then extrapolated out into the relative weights of all the presupposed masses of those lights in the sky. So, you've got the weight of those from that, kind of better to say it, experiment, which it isn't.
I'm really upset that they use bean cans since they've never been there before.
Boom, boom.
And they do produce a lot of hot air.
Boom, boom. Dad jokes. Keep them up.
That was Professor Van de Kamp going as Paul. Well, I'm really sad that Rumpus and Brenda didn't come on the show to debate this overwhelming evidence for a spinning globe.
Really? I'm not. Oh, I'm terribly disappointed. No, I'm not disappointed about that.
Yeah, they're on strike for a while. They're licking their wounds.
Strike? Great. Couldn't care less.
I think soon they'll be on strike forever.
Yep.
Loosely translated, they're continually having their ass handed to them. Even from the chat. Pathetic.
Oh, gravity affected you for a second there.
I had one of them.
Hey, Righteous.
Hey, it was funny that yesterday, Moto, which is one of the Globers, was telling me, you can't learn anything from a video. And I go, and Righteous was there. He was there when he heard it. And I go, really? So if I pull up a video from Yale and they're talking about thermodynamics, I can't learn anything from that. Or let's say if I pull up a video from MIT on thermodynamics or quantum mechanics, I can't learn anything from that either. So that's crazy. That's stupid talk.
Well, that's using a conduit as though it's an information source. You can't learn anything from YouTube. What? YouTube's just a conduit for information. Now, that information may be good quality information, it may be useless and garbage, but that's not YouTube. YouTube's just a conduit. In the same way as if you've got a string of experts in a particular field, that go onto a stage for an audience to present their information, and then you go, oh, that theatre's never had any good information in it. You're like, what? That's nonsense.
Well, just tell them you don't learn from YouTube. You learn from the videos that are on YouTube. Idiot.
Or maybe not. It might be garbage information. Just, you know.
But even if it was, he didn't say YouTube specific. He said video in general, which means if technically if I take your logic to the fullest extent, I can't go to Yale or any of those other places directly to their website. And if they've got a video on a specific topic, I can't learn anything from that.
It's a nonsense assertion. I mean, you can summarize it far more basic. If you say, for the sake of argument, you've never seen the Taj Mahal, and then you go, oh, well, what does it look like? I have no idea. I've never, ever seen it. And I go, here's a video of the Taj Mahal. Do you now know what the Taj Mahal looks like? Oh, absolutely. You know, it's just a ludicrous assertion. Can't learn anything. No, you can learn what the Taj Mahal looks like if you've never seen it before. Well, is that not learning? What a crap.
If you can't learn from video, why do all these professors and lecturers have their lectures on video?
Well, and I've noticed, like, even Yale,
where do they do that?
They've got a whole coursework. You could pretty much sit through all of the course on thermodynamics from Yale and never pay whatever the Yale tuition cost is. I mean,
yeah, I did exactly that with MIT, not Yale, but MIT. So MIT have got all of their thermodynamics lectures published. You should go watch them.
Yeah, that saves on tuition costs. Now, you don't have the piece of paper at the end of the name, you know, when you're done, but you can still have the knowledge and information.
Or come across a great gem to snip out, which is what I did.
One of my favorite scenes in Good Will Hunting was in the bar scene. Have you seen the bar scene? You know what I'm talking about, where, you know, he says, I learned everything in, you know, $20 worth of late fees at the library, which you spent $100,000 on. I thought that was hilarious. You learned more in late fees in the library. That's funny.
Well, their statement on videos is very conditional, isn't it? Because they believe all the NASA videos.
Yeah, they're learning what it would be like if you could violate the second law of thermodynamics via video. That's perfectly acceptable.
Well, and
so, in other words, you're not learning unless you're learning from that Michelle lady.
Oh, yeah.
That's learning right there, baby.
We all learn together, or no one learns at all.
And there's another aspect. I've noticed
Very good, Nathan. Very good.
I love it.
Yeah, that's funny. I learned this from Zanuck. I'm starting to figure this out from Zanuck as well. I took anatomy in college, and I was really good at understanding the concept, but I would forget the name of a specific whatever, you know, and I would understand the concept very well. You know, I couldn't name every part, and I couldn't do everything like that, but I had a study partner. She didn't understand any of the concepts hardly, but she understood the specifics of the definition of each one. And we studied together because I helped her and she helped me. And I think I noticed Zanuck's tactic is he actually has you define something. Like I may not know the definition of a specific topic, and that's where I get messed up, and you can catch me on that. But a lot of times I'll have a good understanding of the concept overall. I might not know the individual parts of that concept, but the concept I get. If that makes any sense. And I think that's a tactic too. And I know it's good to know the concepts, don't get me wrong. And I hear you, John. I know you've called me out a little bit. But it's funny how they'll do that as well. Instead of trying to see if you understand the concept, they focus on the terms, which I know terms are important. Don't get me wrong. But I've noticed that in the tactic as well. There's you know, try to make sure you understand the concept first and then get in the specific of terms. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on, but I've noticed that happens a lot too.
I stopped myself. I was on mute and I burst out laughing because you said I couldn't remember the names of whatever or, you know.
Exactly. So I just proved my point. But I get the concept. Like muscles. Let me give you an example. Like I know how muscles work, and it's kind of crazy. The way the molecules are in the muscle, there's a potential in the inside the nerves or inside the muscles that cause it. But it's literally a protein that acts like a ratchet. It's what it does. It contracts and causes your muscle to contract. Now, if you want me to name all those proteins and all that different stuff, I'm completely gone. But I can tell you the concept of how muscle works. I basically know the idea.
Did anyone happen to catch the latest NASA video? It was I don't know if it was the latest one, but it was Brad Pitt talking to, or a live feed to the ISS. It's pretty hilarious, actually. The astronaut in parentheses. Yeah, he said something along the lines of don't quote me directly because I don't remember the exact what he said. He's thanking Brad Pitt because he was saying like, you know, you guys, what you guys are doing in Hollywood, you guys are really capturing exactly what it looks like. You know, when one of our ships docks the ISS, so you guys are doing a great service for our kids, and when they watch your movies, that they're really getting a real sense of what it really looks like from up here. It was just so funny. They were just basically kissing each other's asses, and yeah, it was fun. It was funny to watch if anyone wants that.
Some of it, it was hard to tell who was the worst actor, the actor not or Brad Pitt.
Yeah, that's pretty shitty. Yeah.
You fake it better. No, you fake it better. No, you fake it better.
So the astronaut was thanking Brad Pitt for helping make the movie look like reality.
Yeah, exactly. And he was saying something like, "You're doing a great service to our children as well because they watch this, and then they get the
You're
real
helping
sense
indoctrinate
of what it
our
really
kids.
looks like."
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
But hold on, you're saying it like right? No, that's literal. That's yes.
No, I know.
Hollywood is literally that what we call science fiction is what they call science fact, and in reality, they're not the flip side of the same coin. They're the same side of the same coin. Both are just indoctrinating you. When you go to the cinema, you have the same indoctrination as you get from Science at NASA, their YouTube channel. It's just the same exact indoctrination with the same exact narrative and the same exact presuppositions that we argue about here. The fact that it's deemed sci-fi in Hollywood and sci outside of Hollywood is irrelevant. It's not. It's pseudo-sci-fi and pseudoscience.
And then the subliminal programming of saying, thank you for helping us with what we're showing our kids. Wow. Because that wasn't a setup question. That's ridiculous. Ugh.
Yeah, and they ended the interview with the classic somersault. You know, it was funny. It's just funny to watch. You got to watch it.
Well, I told you they were going to be promoting this Ad Astra movie with Brad Pitt big time, and they're already starting. So get ready.
Yeah, it's just promotion.
We've seen the other one that's supposed to be coming out with Natalie. Think actually the shape of the Earth.
You're roboting, Chocolate.
Like that.
Chocolate.
All right, I'll shut up now.
Good presentation, by the way, last night, QE. I listened back to it today. Very good. Nice. Your presentations are getting more segmented but more concise. So the actual presentation is probably about half an hour, which is what you said to me, but obviously it dragged on because of me and Betty talking a little bit and chatting about your potential new computer that you'll hopefully get when you get around to sorting it out. I don't know, I won't press you on the issue. Anyway, it was just good information. I know I read through some of the comments and a few people had echoed that sentiment. But yeah, I like the fact that you're getting more segmented and more specific and, chunking out the data in bite-sized pieces. That's great. Obviously I was on the show, but that's why I watched it back, because you're not quite paying 100% attention when you're paying attention to the show also. So, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed watching it.
Really?
Yeah, it was good. I watched it this morning.
I did too. I watched it early this morning myself.
Really? I didn't watch it. Oh God.
The most fascinating thing I've learned about space is that it doesn't exist.
That what? Sorry.
What does that have to do with? What was that? What did that have to do with what we were just talking about?
I was trying to squeeze it in before that, but I couldn't.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh gosh, thank you for the belly laugh. That was great.
I gave it a few tries, but
Next time,
I'm glad it made it into the recording without being rumpus. That was nice.
So
Yeah,
back to the top. So back to the topic.
Back to your topic. I think one of the best points you brought up was the dependent variable is the natural phenomenon, and these pseudo whoever they are think that that's man-made.
Moreover, that they've got a declaration of their inadequacies as a method when they're talking about natural experiments, and they're basically flat out telling you, well, the problem is it's open to bias. The problem is you're not actually controlling the variable or manipulating the thing that you think is the cause. You know, they make it plain as day. Well, I say they make it plain as day. I'm sure it's QE elucidating those details that make it seem like it's as plain as day, because he actually said those words. This should jump right off the page at you, and yeah, bloody hell does it. Yeah, these bullshit pseudoscientists, they'll just say they're science by putting the word science next to something else, and then when you look into the detailed explanation of what that word actually means, it means they're pretender clown muppets. It's pseudo, it's not real. What was the other one they used? As opposed to pseudo, there was another word they used. Quasi, that's it. It's a quasi experiment. You're like, you little bastards, you little weasels, you little frauds, telling us what our world is. Bastards.
I mean, isn't that the whole point of an experiment, to manipulate something? How many of those citations said there's nothing to manipulate?
Yeah.
So what are you doing? You're just watching stuff?
No, they're making correlations. They're making correlations. Those two that were first brought up, the natural experiment and observational studies, those are correlational type of things. Field experiments are just a train wreck, friggin' voter turnout. See, that's what you get. Like I said, that's what you get when you get pretender clowns, right? That type experiment into Google, and they run across observational studies, natural experiments, and field experiments. Oh, we got them now. We got QE now. Freaking retards. That's what you are.
But it's statistical analysis and correlation. So it might be data gathering, statistical analysis, and correlation, or any variant of that order. But ultimately not varying and manipulating presumed causes of effects and validating them or invalidating them by way of experimentation. That's not what's happening. It's grab yourself a notepad, gather up numbers, and then correlate them with an effect you assume and cannot in any way validate. That's essentially what they're doing. It's pseudoscience of the highest degree.
33rd degree.
Yeah. But, you know, there are certain branches of medicine that will also do the same thing, but in a far more controlled way to give you correlations, which they will make declarations, you know. I wouldn't say a double blind is a scientific experiment, right, John?
Double blind, placebo-controlled experiment?
Yeah.
Depends. I'd have to look at the experiment.
Okay, but it has the potential to not be a valid scientific experiment, correct?
Oh yeah. Right. I'd have to see the hypothesis, and I'd have to see the experiment. We have to get real specific here.
Sure. Just take it as read that I'm talking about one that gives you a correlation-based outcome, which there are absolutely plenty of examples of. I'm sure you'll agree in medicine specifically.
Oh yeah, there's hundreds of thousands. Yes.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is, in those regards, the correlation-based research is laid out, and you have to analyze it in terms of how good the correlation is. But it still doesn't give you a cause. It's still not empirical. It can still be absolutely deemed wrong, even if it was given a 99% certitude, which it isn't. It's a correlation. It always will be. So 99%, well, what about that 1% that proves it absolutely incorrect? Oh, well, that's a bit of a problem if you're trying to declare that you have empiricism. And as is declared with the research that QE does on his show, and it actually exposes it to the public, so it seems like, oh, well, isn't this obvious? Look, they're declaring it. Yeah, they're declaring it because Quantum Eraser has shown you it. You wouldn't necessarily know if it wasn't for being subscribed to Quantum Eraser. But fortunately, I am.
I can't believe you watched. I didn't even watch the show, to be perfectly honest with you.
I'll never confess to that. Obviously, you obviously watch your own show because you're as interested in your own show as your audience, if not more, of course.
I have to be honest. I just been so overwhelmed, man. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I did hit the end of it because you told me to play the video. I did play it.
I'm joking. I'm kidding. You produced it. It's just me. I almost swore that. Me messing with you because of the way your cognition's wired. You can't watch a live show you're producing. You're producing it. So don't sweat it. But you know, if it's a premiering stream, I'll be there watching my own show, and typically you're always in your premiering streams because you're not producing them there and then, right? You know, so don't sweat it, John. It's different as an audience member. That's why I qualified it there. I was like, yeah, admittedly I was part of the production of the show, but you focused on other things while you're doing it. In your case, you're making presentations, so obviously you're acutely aware of your own presentation. Watching it back after the fact isn't really needed.
I'm talking about actually, you know, watching the show back. I do watch the ones that I've produced, which aren't many so far on my channel. I have watched that, but I just didn't get a chance to watch yesterday's show because of the computer problems that I was having. I'm just swamped, man.
John, who did your intro and your symbol? Like, I liked it. It's pretty cool.
Which part?
The intro.
Oh, you're talking about the video?
Intro. Adam Meakin.
The Terminator intro.
Adam Meakin. Iron Realm Media.
Yep, Adam did it.
Adam. That's
yeah. He took a concept that I told him about a couple months ago and ran with it. He just blew me away with it.
Yeah, it didn't meet the full criteria. I mean, I definitely saw the words Liquid Metal Terminator 2 on there, and I've got to be honest, I thought he kind of dropped over a hurdle a little bit on that one. Nah, I'm only messing with you, Adam. You're awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. Yeah, definitely. Hey, so what else is going on? Are you going to is there a conference this weekend?
Yeah, Amsterdam. I'm there on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, the Amsterdam. That's right. The one where the mathematical physicist declined to come.
Yeah, I'm there free of any obligations whatsoever. I'll just be wandering around as a tourist. Cool. Right. Any more? Got about 60 seconds.
I would say position yourself with your camera for the live feed closer to the speaker so we can hear it better.
Yeah.
I'll do my best. I hadn't actually any intentions of filming anything on either occasion, so...
In that case, forget what I said.
Yeah, just doing it on a crappy camera phone is never going to be wonderful, so my apologies if you... Yeah, I'll try and get a new phone. Budget permitting, I'll get a new phone eventually, but at the moment I just can't afford one.
I think Adam also did it, so maybe you can just...
Yeah, I know. Adam managed to be able to see people in his video, and my crappy old phone that's about 5 years old didn't. But there we go, that's life. With that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making the live and after shows possible. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!